Hey guys, Matt Jones, and as if on cue, the wind's blowing behind me to get the Australian flag up and flying for you. Just a minute ago, there was no wind and it was just sitting flat. I was thinking, I wonder if there's going to be some wind, and of course, as soon as I pressed play, there it is. So, thank you, wind. Today is the 24th of February, which makes it the 55th day of this 100 days to harvest, and I'm standing. This Australian flag is there because this building, what I'm standing in front of here, the Kyobo Building, is where the Australian Embassy is housed, and it's pretty much in a central precinct of a cultural hub of Seoul. So up at the end of this street is the old King's Palace, Gwanghwamun, and then down further down the street, in fact on the far end of this street is Nam Mountain, and midway between here and there is Chukachong Stream, which some of you might have heard of, which is the highway that was reclaimed to allow a terrestrial stream to continue to run and run freely, which it's currently doing. It's a great thing to walk around. It goes for quite a few kilometres and it's beautiful. There's some beautiful spots in there. I just wanted to talk briefly today. This is a little digest about friendship between Australia and Korea, and today I just wanted to make a mention about perspective, keeping things in perspective. So, like, it's easy to I think sometimes I get a sense sometimes that this is my assumption. The assumption is sometimes I think Australians don't necessarily so much think too much of themselves, but they maybe have too high a regard for the legacy they have in a particular country. Let me explain. So, for example, in military history, when it's told from an Australian perspective, it's as though Australia was at the centre of the action. And certainly where military history is told that has bearing on Australia being involved, you know, it generally has quite a part to play. For example, in Anzac, but Australia wasn't the only force in Anzac, and to tell history as though it was is missing the point. It's also cheapening the sacrifice of some other people. Similarly to Kapyong, the story of Kapyong here in Korea, that's told as though it was a fight only fought by Australians. I mean, Australia fought largely the brunt of the fight, but if it wasn't for the New Zealand artillery and Canadians forces providing blocking forces and American tanks, you know, all these other aspects about the battle that day, you know, Australia couldn't have done it on their own. But that's not what I mean to be saying about perspective. I want to bring it back to friendship, because, you know, Australia's but one of however many countries represented here with their consulars or embassies. You know, and there is a credible story of friendship, and there is a real relationship between Australia and Korea. But I think we need to focus on what makes it special, what makes it unique, rather than are we the best. I think that's sort of misleading thinking. So perspective is helpful because it allows us to recognise that there are other people in the equation too. I think this is particularly relevant in Seoul, which is a massive city in a country of 50 million people, or more than 50 million people. In this city, which is bustling and big, you know, it can be, you know, not one of the great pressures in Seoul is for everyone to be like the stars, because there's such a high impression from social media and K-pop that people are generally trying to be like what they think beauty looks like, or what popular is like, or just to stay ahead of the curve. And I think that's unhelpful thinking. I think perspective in all things is really important, mostly in friendship, because quite often, and I reckon this is true for almost everyone listening, a lot of our friendships are pretty ordinary. By ordinary, I don't mean they're not good. I just mean that they have, maybe they're not as fancy as people might want them to be. They're not going to be featured in some glossy magazine, and it's just a matter of meeting out for coffee or being able to give someone a call, going out for dinner. And those things are really important. Those connections are really important. So similarly, Australia doesn't need to be the best country in Korea, although it ought to strive to be. But in for example, how we engage with trade, we should look at what really makes us unique and think about those things not from a position of purely transactional exchange, but looking at what we uniquely bring to the equation and then building upon that. I think that's the real strength of economic diplomacy. Just a thought. I wanted to sort of do something here close to the Australian Embassy, and I think I'll be looking to finish up here on day 100 anyway. But hope you guys are all doing well, and if you've got stories of friendship, love to hear them. And thanks for your comments, it's really helpful. Take care.